Sandeep just told me that I should speak on India's march towards a $5 trillion economy. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you were to look at the last 5 years of India's growth, India has grown on an average of about 7.5% plus in the last 5 years. And if you were to go back in time and look from about 2004 onwards till now, India has actually lifted about 351 million people above the poverty line. And that's lifting a very vast segment of the global population above the poverty line. But the challenge really for India is to grow at very high rates of 8 to 9% per annum, year after year, for 3 decades or more, to be able to lift a very, very young population above the poverty line. India is passing through a window of demographic transition, which rarely happens in history. The average age of population is 29, 72% of the population is below the age of 32. And rarely does the country not create wealth when it has such light dependency burden. And to my mind, this is actually the biggest social and economic transition that is taking place across the world. That is, the population in India is getting younger and younger and will actually keep getting younger till 2042, whereas the population across the Western Hemisphere, across America, across Europe, and now including China, will keep getting older and older and older. And therefore, this is a very, very vast opportunity for India. So what does India need to do to be able to become a $5 trillion economy by 25? That is the target which the Prime Minister set for India, and subsequently go on to become a $10 trillion economy by 2030. So first and foremost, to my mind, over the years, India has made itself a very complex, a very complicated, and a very difficult place to do business. But in the last 4 to 5 years, the Prime Minister has focused on making India very easy and simple. We've scrapped a vast number of rules, regulations, paperwork, procedures, all of them. And actually, we're the only country in the world which has actually scrapped 1,400 laws. And India's actually jumped up 79 positions in the World Bank Ease of Doing Business. And amongst the large countries of the world, this has been the most significant improvement any country has ever made. But India is a very, very large country. It's bigger than 24 countries of Europe. And therefore, much of the business is in states, and it's very important that India makes its states easy and simple as well. So we started making the states compete with each other. We started ranking states, and we said we'll actually make good governance as good politics, and we'll start naming and shaming them. So the first year we did this, Gujarat came number 1. But the next year we did this ranking of states on ease of doing business. Andhra beat Gujarat, and beat Gujarat by quite a margin. But the next year, the third year we did this, a new state like Telangana beat both Andhra and Gujarat. But the good thing was that the eastern part of India, Jharkhand and Chhattisgarh, which are actually the mineral-rich states of India, they improved radically. They brought major changes, and they came 4th and 5th. And my belief is that if the eastern part of India improves, they make radical reforms, and they're the mineral-rich states of India, India will obviously grow very radically in terms of its GDP. And therefore, the whole focus of India has been on making India very, very easy and simple. The second key thing for India has been that it's important to understand that we are in a globalized world, and India must be a very integral part of the global supply chain. In today's world, something is designed in Silicon Valley, parts of it are made in China, some other parts are made in Vietnam, some are in India, they're all assembled somewhere else, and therefore it's very integral to today's growth strategy that you have to be a very integral part of the value chain. And therefore India opened up its foreign direct investment regime, in the last 5 years, we've opened up every single sector of India's economy for FDI. Almost 97% of India's FDI comes in through the through the automatic route of foreign direct investment. You don't need any clearances. And therefore, our FDI has actually grown by 66% at a point of time when FDI across the world has fallen by about 13%. So India has opened up its economy, whereas the rest of the world, including the United States of America and China, have closed their economy. Thirdly, I think it's very important to understand that much of the growth in the world is actually driven by urbanization. Cities actually account for just 3% of the Earth's land mass, but they account for almost 80% of the global GDP. They account for about 75% of the CO2 emission as well. And therefore, they are big drivers of growth. The process of urbanization is ended across America, it's ended across Europe, it's nearing its completion in China, but the process of urbanization in India has just begun. And actually, India will do massive urbanization in the next 5 decades. It will do more urbanization than what it has done in the last 5,000 years. And every minute, as I speak here today, there are 30 Indians who move from rural areas to urban areas. When America urbanized, land, gas, water were all cheaply available. And because they were cheaply available, America had the luxury of living in New Jersey, creating big, big limousines, guzzling gas, and traveling to New York City. It had the luxury of creating cities like Atlanta, where 99.2% of the people travel by cars. Nobody cycles, nobody walks, nobody uses public transportation. So American cities were actually made for cars and not for people. And, American car companies bought over railway companies and destroyed them. But the process of urbanization, as I said, has ended across all over the world, and India has just begun. And as India embarks on its process of urbanization, land, gas, water will all be scarce commodities. And therefore, India's process of urbanization will have to be extremely innovative, it will have to be very sustainable, and India will have to learn the art of recycling its water, its waste, and it will have to create very sustainable cities of the future. Many of these lessons come from the eastern part of the world and not the western part of the world. The fourth point I want to make is that actually in the last few years, India has made some very major structural reforms. It's brought in one tax across the economy. It's like putting one tax across entire Europe, the goods and services tax, which is totally portable and cashless and digital. It's ended vast queues across state boundaries. It's a very, very radical reforms. There have been some teething issues to it, but I think in the long run it will do India a lot of good. It will widen the tax net, it will formalize India's economy as one of the most progressive moves made in recent times in the global economy. India has also ended crony capitalism by bringing in the bankruptcy code, and today if you're not able to pay your financial institutions, you will lose your businesses, and therefore crony capitalism is truly ended in India. The third key reform has been the Real Estate Regulation Act, which has actually led to a lot of discipline in the property, real estate, and construction sector. But I think, to my mind, the most notable reform has been of the direct benefit transfer. When I was a young officer and I started my career, and I worked in the fisheries sector of Kerala, one of my challenges was to increase the earnings of traditional fishermen. We provided them fishing nets, new crafts, we gave them new onboard motors so that they could go much further into the sea. But opening their bank accounts was a nightmare. It used to take me 7-8 months chasing bank managers to open their bank accounts. But in India today, using your biometric, you can open a bank account in less than a minute, in just about 50 to 55 seconds. Now, one of the notable features of Indian economy has been the use of technology to lead fraud. We are the only country in the world with 1,200 million biometrics. Every Indian has a biometric. We are the only country in the world with 1,200 million mobiles, and we we're the only country in the world with 1,200 bank accounts, 1,200 million bank accounts. So every Indian has a bank account, every Indian has a mobile, and every Indian has a biometric, what we call the JAM Trinity. And actually, this has led to over 700 schemes of the government of India, benefits being provided straight into the bank accounts of the beneficiary, and the beneficiary takes out his money using his biometric. So India has actually become a very productively efficient economy. But what has driven this is the huge process of digitization of the Indian economy. In India, 97 to 98% of the people pay direct tax online, 95% of it is settled within a period of 3 months digitally. If you look at the digital payment, we've created a unified payment interface on which about 150 banks are connected, and you pay money digitally. I have not used my debit card, credit card for over 2 years. I use my mobile to make all payments through an app called the BHIM. And if you look at the new health insurance scheme of India, which is Ayushman Bharat, we provide health insurance to 500 million Indians, which is more than the population of USA, Europe and Mexico put together. And it's totally cashless, paperless, portable. You can be in East India, going to South India, you can carry your insurance. So what India has done is actually, it has created vast sets of data across health, across payment, across tax, across direct taxation. And actually, this vast data has made India data rich before it has actually become rich. So India is massively data rich before it has become a wealthy nation. And this data richness has led to over 1,000 startups working on artificial intelligence, working on machine learning, and doing huge amount of disruption. The whole of fintech movement is being driven by data, is being driven by technology. And so what India has actually done is that it is using data to drive a lot of huge amount of machine learning and artificial intelligence for the future. And that, to my mind, is a remarkable feature of making technology to leapfrog the Indian society. The next point I want to make is that actually, if you were to look at India and if you were to look at Bangalore or Hyderabad in the last 5 to 6 years, India has seen about close to 1,400 multinational corporations relocating their engineering and R&D to these cities and doing innovation for the rest of the world from there. So you had a vast number of innovations, and every single American company, from IBM to Cisco to John Deere to GE to just about every single American company has actually relocated its ER&D to Bangalore, Hyderabad. So GE's low-cost ECG machine innovated from there. Honeywell's turbocharger innovated from there. Philips low-cost sound recording machine innovated from there. Shell's recent innovation of converting waste into BS6 standard diesel and petrol was innovated from there. Samsung's 2G, 3G, 4G, 5G, all innovation has happened from there. And SAP's entire software development across the world for the fashion industry of the world has all been innovated from there. So actually, India has become a highly innovative nation with a lot of innovations for the rest of the world taking place from there. And therefore, quite a bit of innovation using Indian skills will happen from many of these cities, and it is now spreading to Pune, Gurgaon, and many other places. The next point I want to make is that actually India will see a huge amount of focus on infrastructure. We're the only country in the world which is doing about 100 smart cities. We're the only country in the world which is doing 50 metros. We are doing high-speed trains, and we are creating the dedicated freight corridor between Delhi, Mumbai, Calcutta, and Amritsar. And goods produced in the northern part of India today take about 13 to 14 days to reach the ports on the western coast of India. But from next year, you'll have the dedicated freight corridor which will link up the northern part of India to the JNPT port, and goods will reach within 14 hours. So from 14 days to 14 hours will be the paradigm shift in India to creation of world-class infrastructure. And on the back of this, we're creating new cities. 7 new cities exactly like Mumbai or Chennai or Calcutta were created at one point of time. So India will do a lot of world-class infrastructure in the days to come. Having said all this, and having pointed out to you on how technology has been done, and one of the key things I must point out has been the great evolution of the startup movement in India. We've been able to create the third best ecosystem in the world. We've created a vast number of unicorns at much faster rate than the United States of America. A lot of funding for these startups has gone from diaspora, Indian diaspora, from here into our startup movement. And many of these startups have actually done innovation of the kind which the world has never seen before. So a startup like Baidu, for instance, has become a $6 billion startup in a matter of just 4 years, improving learning outcomes. Or you have a startup like Imbai, which is run by a girl called Aditi, where she is actually tracking every single student on learning outcomes in the state of Rajasthan. Much like you track Uber cars, Uber vehicles longitudinally and latitudinally. And you have another girl called Pranchu who teaches, who has actually started teaching Mandarin and Japanese, but soon discovered that the requirement was for teaching English. And in 1 year time was taught 9 million Indians how to speak English. So what we are seeing today is a huge amount of disruption in the world of learning outcomes in health, in agriculture. Satsyo, Valsad Labs are providing seed and fertilizer to our farmers depending on soil and weather condition on a real-time basis. And you have Ather Energy in Bangalore, which has done innovation, the smartest scooter, the smartest two-wheeler, which has been built as the Tesla of the scooter world. So you have a huge amount of disruption taking place in India across education, across health, across water, across agriculture. So Silicon Valley may be the most innovative place in the world, but it keeps doing innovations like driverless cars, which has very little relevance for the developing world. But in India, you have all the challenges. I mean, Silicon Valley is innovative, but it has no challenges. All the challenges of the world are in India. The challenges of literacy, of education, of food, of agriculture, of transportation, all those challenges are in India. And many of these startups are really finding solutions for them. And if India is able to find solutions to these challenges of India, they are finding a solution. Their market is not the 1.3 billion people of India, but the 7.5 billion people of the world will actually be moving from poverty to middle class in the next decade and a half. And that, in my mind, is the real challenge of the world. And that is what India will be finding a solution to. So having said all this, let me also point out what are the challenges for India. And there are many challenges. And the first and foremost is that India needs to really drive gender parity. In India, only 28% of the women work. The worldwide average is 48%. And therefore, there's a huge focus through a movement called Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao. And if India is able to reach the worldwide average, India will add close to about $700 billion to its economy. And therefore, bringing in a higher and a much greater level of gender parity is the key. Secondly, a very vast segment of our population still lives and survives in agriculture at subsistence level, and therefore you need a huge shift of population away from agriculture into manufacturing and exports. And therefore, the massive thrust of manufacturing and bringing in size and scale of manufacturing and penetrating global markets to exports is necessary and it's critical. Because India has essentially grown on the back of services sector. India's services sector accounts for almost 62% of its GDP. But with services sector, you can grow, but you can't create jobs. And India needs to grow with jobs, and therefore manufacturing is critical. And lastly, I would say, if you were to look at the map of India, you will find that the southern, the western part of India, and probably the northern part of India do reasonably well. But if you were to look at the map of India, there are several districts of India which do extremely poorly in nutrition, in health, in education. And it's very important for India to do inclusive growth. And therefore, We run a program which is really to develop the 115 backward districts of India, which is driven by the Prime Minister himself. But we don't call them the backward districts of India, we call them the aspirational districts of India. And we collect data on a real-time basis and make these districts compete. And our challenge is that these districts must become the best performing districts of the states in 3 years' time and the best performing districts of India in 5 years' time. We make them compete on third-party real-time data. We rank these districts and we reward districts which perform very well, and we rank them on their incremental performance. And our objective, and which is quite close to being achieved, is that in 3 years' time, these districts will really become the best performing districts of India, and therefore India's educational, nutritional, health standards will make a quantum jump forward. So ladies and gentlemen, let me just say that while we've grown at 7.5% plus over the last 5 years, in the last quarter of 2018, we grew at about 8.1%. This growth has dipped, and this growth has dipped to about 5% in the second quarter of this year. Both the Central Bank, the Reserve Bank of India, and the Government of India have taken a series of measures. The repo rate was brought down by the Central Bank by about 135 basis points, and the Government of India has taken a series of measures, including capitalization of our public sector banks, amalgamating certain banks and giving a major packet for exports and manufacturing, and several other things to push for the manufacturing growth. I'm quite sure that this growth will revive in the coming months. We'll give a bigger thrust and we'll accelerate ourselves again to becoming one of the top. Last 5 years, we've been the best performing G20 country in the world, and we are determined to go back to that. But this would require some major structural reforms which the government has invested in. One of the key things is to do a lot of asset monetization, get government out of areas of selling roads, which it has already made, of getting out of airports. It has privatized several airports, will privatize many more. It will do asset monetization of transmission lines, and it will do a lot of asset monetization of its ports and terminals. And all this provides massive business opportunity because these are already constructed projects, they are fully de-risked, and PE investors and long-term insurance investors will find it a very good means of investing. I've given you all the strengths, I've given you what the challenges are, but India is quite determined to be a very major accelerator of growth in the global economy. It is determined to grow at 9 to 10% over the 3-decade period. India's story has just begun. India's story of major structural reforms has just begun because it's carried out some major structural reforms, and this will truly accelerate the pace of growth in a very, very transparent and competitive manner over the next 3 decades. And therefore, what you will see is a huge pace of acceleration of India's growth in the coming years. Thank you very much, ladies.